On Sunday's Fox News Sunday show with Chris Wallace, finally, and I wrote an article about this, and I have a video that I'll put into, I'll link you to on YouTube. But finally, Fox News had a moment of actual journalism where they were interviewing, Chris Wallace was interviewing Dick Cheney, and Dick Cheney began to spin a false narrative about Iran's 5,000 centrifuges. And he began to cast that in the light of President Obama being weak on foreign policy, President Obama signing a bad deal with Iran, President Obama not having a backbone, and President Obama allowing Iran to become a nuclear threat and a nuclear problem. Here's what Chris Wallace did, which is amazing, because not only is it rare for Fox News, but it's rare for news in general to actually present facts and to use the follow-up question to shut down a false narrative. Chris Wallace puts on the screen the fact that between 2007 and 2009, Iran went from 0 centrifuges to 5,000 centrifuges. 5,000, that's the number that President Obama is dealing with right now in terms of the negotiations and reducing those that number of centrifuges. And actually, they acquired more after that, but that's what President Obama was handed when he came into office in 2009. Dick Cheney said, well, Chris Wallace asked the question. This is important. The question that was asked, he said, didn't you and Bush hand President Obama a mess in terms of the Iran nuclear program? And of course, Dick Cheney tries to obfuscate the situation and tries to spin a narrative saying what they did and how Iran was scared of the U.S. because of what we did to Iraq, which we shouldn't have done in the first place. But I digress. Iran would not have been able to pursue a nuclear program if Iraq had not fallen, and the power that the regional hegemony, the regional polarity of the region. The polarity of the region between a struggle between Iran and Iraq, that's what kept Iran in check for all of the decades. And once we removed Saddam Hussein, without a viable powerful leader, there was a vacuum that not only allowed ISIS to come in, but also allowed Iran to run with their nuclear program. So the Bush administration did offer or present to President Obama in 2009 a ridiculous mess in the region. Dick Cheney pushes back on that assertion, and I'll play the clip for you. He pushes back on that assertion, and ultimately, Chris Wallace said, but yes, you allowed Iran 5,000 centrifuges, and Dick Cheney goes into a clear lie, an absolute lie. He said, well, they very well may have gotten 5,000 centrifuges, but they got that on President Obama's watch.
We did a lot to limit nuclear proliferation in the region while we were there.
But the centrifuges went from 0 to 5,000.
Well, they may well have gone, but that happened on Obama's watch and not on our watch.
No. By 2009, they were at 5,000.
Right, but I think we did a lot to deal with the arms control problem in the Middle East.
And so normally on Fox News and normally in corporate-run media, there's no pushback after this point. At this point, that's the end of the conversation. And there's a nice talking point that's just left out there that President Obama is responsible for the centrifuges in Iran. But Chris Wallace decides to go one step further and say, well, no, this happened between 2007 and 2009. And so this happened during the Bush administration. And Dick Cheney, he kind of obfuscates and kind of does what he can, he contorts, he does everything he can to get around the fact that the Bush administration handed President Obama yet another mess in the region. And in this time, it was the exact issue that Dick Cheney has written a book about, and that he's doing a book tour on television to destroy the Iranian nuclear deal. So the problem that was created by the Bush or during the Bush administration, not necessarily because, but definitely during, they're trying to now lay at the feet of President Obama, who has brought a solution. I don't know if I can overstate this enough. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who will create a problem. They created the 2007 to 2009 recession the greatest recession that we've seen since the Depression, and yet they attack President Obama for the solutions that he brought. They created a problem in the Middle East by overthrowing Saddam Hussein and essentially breaking Iraq, creating a failed state. Yet they're blaming President Obama, which by the way, subsequently led to the creation of ISIS and led to Iran's nuclear program. And now they're blaming President Obama for his solution to the nuclear program. And anything that he does, for better or for worse, he's doing something to fight back against ISIS. And yet they're complaining about that, yet they are responsible for the creation of ISIS. This, my friends, this is a type of foolishness that we deal with on a regular basis from the conservatives, because they have put themselves in a position of perpetual opposition. And they want to oppose President Obama no matter what it costs. Even if it costs us another war, even if it costs us American lives in the terms of troops, in terms of people who would not have access to health care if they had their way, in terms of everything that they do, they are willing to harm the American economy, American lives, all for the sake of opposing President Obama. And while I disagree with President Obama on some things, one thing I agree with him on is that he has been able to accomplish a significant amount in the face of this unprecedented opposition. And these are the people, mind you, that want to get back into power, who have convinced their constituents that their solutions are actually better when their quote unquote solutions created the problems that President Obama has dug us out of, down to 5.1% unemployment. When he came into office, it was at 7% and skyrocketed because of the effects of the recession. And everything that he's done to not only improve our position in the Middle East, to improve our situation with regard to healthcare, to improve our situation with regard to the economy, the Republicans have done everything possible to stop them, and they think they deserve another chance at governing.